I really enjoyed this questline. Like I said earlier, once we got past that first part of the Living World Season 2 storyline, the story got a lot more interesting, and this really continued that trend a little bit more. It's definitely doing a little bit better at making you invest in the story, and the interesting part about this questline is that it is forcing you to be more familiar with the maps and the events that each map has. So the basic premise of this one is you're trying to hold a summit to stop the next dragon that we're gonna hopefully fight at the end of this season. So it shows you like the Char area first, and we go there and we have to basically explore the Iron Marches, which if you're a human you've never been to at this point. So it works out in that it helps you really see the different events, and it's really, your quest is to do all of the map events, and it took me a little bit to figure out that was what was happening at this point, but once I was like, oh yeah, okay, sure, like, that's fine. But this is slightly different than at Dry Top, because within Dry Top, I happened to be on during a time where a group was running through and doing all of the map events, so there was a group of us doing it at that point. But with this one, the map was definitely a lot less filled out. So there were a couple other people here and there, which helped out greatly. And that's the thing too, is that there's the map events, and then there's the events inside your instances, like the bosses and stuff. And the map bosses, generally speaking, require either a super strong, overpowered build on a character, which happens. Like, there are people that have built fantastic characters and they could probably solo a lot of these bosses, and then you've got characters like me where I'm probably average for character build, and it's a thief, like a little bit squishy. So, which is fine. I enjoy the character, and that's all that really matters at this point. But I need help with map bosses. Like, I can't solo a map boss. It's not gonna happen. So I have to rely on other people being on, or I have to, call in help, which, not my favorite thing to have to do, but it's alright. It's alright. It happens. Like, you need help. This game is built on the premise of you working with other people to complete it, so it's fine. I get it. I understand. And I was saying too, like, the difference with the instance bosses is, doesn't seem to matter which type of character you're playing, there's some way to defeat it ultimately. Like, ultimately there's some way to defeat a boss that's inside your instance, inside your storyline. So if you don't have a companion with you, if you don't have a friend helping you out in that moment, it's okay. Like, it took me half an hour to defeat one of those bosses, but I did it by myself, didn't call in help. Like, it was great. Frustrating. I really thought I was gonna have to quit out and ask for help, but I didn't. And it worked out in the Iron Marches. In general, there was just enough people on that I didn't really need to have help on, except for one part. There's one part we get to where I just couldn't do it. Which happens. This is what, the third or 4th time, I think, in Guild Wars 2 now with this playthrough with this character that I've mentioned, like, I need help, come help me. So, I like being independent, I like not needing help from others, but sometimes you need it, and that's okay. But yeah, it's really fun, and I mean, this first part was a little annoying, just running around doing the different map events, but I get it. You want your level 80s to know what's going on in the events. You want your level 80s to know what different icons mean, what different things are happening. Like, you want your level 80s to be able to go into a map and be like, oh, this event is happening. I know that this is part of somebody's storyline or somebody's quest. Like, I should go help them. And even for the most part, like, you're obviously scaled down to the area's level. So, like, this is a level 80 quest, but the Iron Marches are not a level 80 area. So I'm not a level 80, like, I don't have the level 80 health or anything, but it's very balanced. So even though I am a level 80 down to a level 55, I think is what we are here, it's balanced, like, it's scaled. So if this was a level 80 map and I was a level 80 character, it'd be the same outcome. It's very much what it feels like. So this is the part where going through, I'm like, okay, I gotta beat up a wolf. And I knew as soon as I realized what this quest was that it was gonna be a problem, because I had tried this event on my own coming in. I was like, oh yeah, I'm strong, I can handle this, that's not an issue. Couldn't do it, so I sidestepped it. I was like, fine, that's fine. Go about my day. And then they threw that I had to do this quest at me, and I'm just like, I know I can't do this. And that's the thing about the map bosses, or the map events too, is that they heal. So because no one else was there fighting this boss, like, he healed by the time I got to him again, and it was infuriating. Once I realized, like, he was healing every time, I tried a couple different things. Like, I was like, okay, I'll stand back, I'll fire my bow at him, I'll aggro some of the other, like, minions and stuff around, because I noticed that the wolf was attacking, like, the drakes and the wild animals and the chars and stuff that were around. So I was like, alright, I'll use that as kind of like a bait system, and I'll fight him while that's happening. And then I noticed there was, like, the oak heart, and I was like, okay, well, that's a big dude, that'll take some aggro off me. And then that didn't work, and so it's a chaotic mess. I think I kind of just did this little heart quest, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done with the wolf. I'm not doing it right now. So I called in my friend. I said, come help me, please. Please, I need you. And in true fashion, he shows up on his I'm sorry, that's a fantastic entrance. No, his character is insane. Every time I play with him, I'm like, I want to mesmer, I want to do that, I want to be the one that people are like, ooh, you're hosting a squad? Let's go, let's do it. Like, let's go take out some baddies. Like, I'm in disbelief at how strong this character is, like, truly, like. But I love that that's the character he brings whenever help me. So it's nice. It's nice to have that friend that is ridiculously strong at the game to come and help you. And he stuck around after he annihilated the wolves. Like, I know I helped, like, I know I was there and I was doing damage, but it just, his character is so strong. He makes everything look like he's just not, like, how is it so easy? And this event, the event where I had to, like, run away and wait for it to disappear or somebody to come and help me, like, we happened to run into it, and easy peasy lemon squeezy with him around. So, and I'm sure I might have actually struggled with this part of the quest too. You know, you had to find some things and beat some things up, and it was just which was fine. And like, this was in an instance, so all of the characters in here that you have to beat up or whatever is totally doable by yourself. You might die, but it's doable even after death. So yeah, it was really fun. I really enjoyed this part of the quest, and it's fun to play with him and have him there to have my back. So I will say, if you do play Guild Wars 2, it's probably beneficial to have a friend or somebody that plays it with you, or to get into a guild. I admit, like, I have not done much with the guild that I'm in, but there are guild events that you can do, and my guild especially, I know if I had been like, oh, is somebody on to help me with this, I know there's a few people that have been like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, like, I'll be right there. I have favorites. So, and like, I know everybody in my guild is super nice. I'm just, like I've said before in other videos, like, I've got social anxiety. Like, admitting that I need help is, and asking other people that I don't know very well for help is, so, but it's nice. It's a nice game to play. There's things you can do. Obviously, I think I'm not sure how necessary it is to play through the Living World seasons after you complete your main storyline. Once I get my next character to that point, like, I'll see if, like, it's actually necessary, but I'm under the impression with how it's set up in, like, the menu that you can kind of repeat the stories if you want, and you can maybe not necessarily do them in order, but I like a story. I like knowing what order things go in. I like knowing the history. If any of you have watched any of my other videos, it becomes very obvious. I'm very invested in the story. I'm very invested in the development of the characters, the development of your companions that you have with you. I like the lore. I like the lore of video games. I like the cutscenes. I like the stories they tell. Sorry, my cat is nibbling on me. So, you know, we just did the Iron Marches, and we helped through the Iron Marches, and now we actually get to go and help Bram. And I was like, oh, we're helping another character, it's going to be more instance-based and less event-based, but it still ended up being events, and this part of the world was super packed, so there were so many people when we got to the couple events that we needed to do here. There were so many people on. It was nice, like, and that's the weird thing too, is like, sometimes you just stumble upon an event. All the people are there. Like, oh, this is where everybody on the map is right now. And sometimes you get to an event and you're like, oh, what am I gonna do? And there were a couple of instances. So especially if I see like a downed player, I'll be like, probably should resurrect them because they might not want to go all the way back to whatever way. It's happened to me enough times where you don't realize there's a jungle tendril there to come up and smack you, and like it can happen where you're just, I don't want to go back to that waypoint. I was really close to discovering this next waypoint. I don't want to go back to that other waypoint. So if I see a downed player, I do try to resurrect them if I can. Sometimes they're downed in the middle of an event and it's just me and that person. I'm like, I'm gonna try, but no promises. I'm not that strong of a character. Like, I'll help if you're swarmed by like minions, and that's the thing, like with just the general map characters, I'm usually pretty good at handling a good chunk of them. I can usually handle up to about 5 of what I would call the normal map enemies. But as soon as you start getting into the special characters, it's a lot more challenging, and a lot of that is purely my ability to use my abilities correctly in the right order at the right time, if that makes sense. Because you obviously have your, well, mine are set to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've got the other one set to V, and there's an EQ. I set it up a little bit like League of Legends with the QR abilities. So a lot of it is figuring out combinations and the right combinations for the enemies that you're fighting, and when to use yourself, when to use your heal correctly, knowing how long it takes for the heal to be active. I don't know. Yes, I get attacked by my cat while I'm playing on my computer and doing stuff on my computer. That doesn't help either, by the way. When you're fighting and all of a sudden feisty cat comes in and attacks your face. It's like, oh, I've got computer enemies and real life enemies to fight. So we're already out of Bram's personal storyline. Like, that was very quick, very to the point. Like, you defeat this set of things and like, we're done, we're in, we'll talk at the summit. Then you go to Rox's and it's a lot more map exploration. Like, it's ultimately not that many quests, but it's a 3-part quest of finding the crown. So you have to go to 3 very different spots of the map, and then do the events at those parts of the map to get the crown. And again, here I lucked out. There were people around to help me with this, so I didn't really have to stress too hard. Like, I was defeated, and I think that kind of made a couple other people note, like, oh, this event is up, let's go do this event. So it worked out. Like, I don't know if they were doing the crown thing or if they were just doing the event, but whichever they were doing was very helpful. And I mean, the events, the thing too with this is that it does show you that the events are, for the most part, worth the struggle, especially if there is a group of people doing them, because you do get some pretty nice rewards and stuff for them. Like, it's not just doing event and that's it. Like, there's no reward or anything. Like, there is a reward for all of the events and stuff that you do, and I don't think it like caps your rewards. Like, I really haven't done many events multiple times, except for a couple in Dry Top, because Dry Top is the worst place on the planet and literally blocks your way. No, but this was a good part of the quest, and there really was no goofy mechanic nonsense in this part of the quest, which is nice. No, they really, it kind of almost feels like Guild Wars go in spurts of like, oh, goofy mechanic, and they like overload you on goofy mechanics, and then they're suddenly like, nah. And it's just all character reliant and based for a while, and then it's like, you need friends, and you're suddenly like, I need friends. And so there's several quests where you need friends to help you, and it's an interesting dynamic. Yeah, I kind of sped up the story a bit, so you guys probably can't catch much of what's going on. Like, if you're familiar with the story, then you probably realize like where I'm at and what's going on. But I think the story is interesting enough that it's definitely worth at least one playthrough if it's available to you to do. It is moderately frustrating that the more invested you get into this part of the story, the more I wish they had continued to let you participate in season 1. I can kind of understand why they made it a history lesson, but as I mentioned, I think in the first video of the Living World videos, that I just didn't feel connected to the characters, and I think that was a big part of it. Because when you're playing through the main storyline, like, you organically meet other champions. Like, you meet Case, even if it's just briefly. You meet Traherne, and you end up working with Traherne closely, and with these 5 characters that you're now the boss of. Brandon keeps calling me boss. It's like, well, I missed, like, how did I end up with this group? Like, how did I end up rolling with this group? Like, how did I end up, like, I'm still commander of the pack, but now I'm on to bigger and better things with them, but it's just, I miss that bit. Like, in Living World Season 1, did they just throw you in with those 4 characters and be like, here's your new group? Or did you, like, actually end up meeting them and be like, oh, well, they're fighting taking on this Scarlet character, like, I need your help, and like, you end up in that way. Like, it's just, you're missing that component of familiarity with them. And that's what it is, and it took me a little while to figure out. Like, season 1 is a lot of that, must be a lot of that backstory of like what these characters are, and season 2 just assumes you know it or you don't care. Neither of those things. And I paid attention to the history lesson. Like, I actually sat and watched it. Like, I do with cutscenes and all these little things. Like, once I got invested in the story, I was like, okay. And I actually, for the most part, read the text boxes a little more and was actually, like, getting involved in the story. So this this quest that's coming up right now, this is obviously they speed up footage, as you guys noticed. Like, I just tack most of it in there. I've cut out most of the traveling because I've gotten a lot better at the navigating. But half an hour to beat that boss. Now, could I have saved myself some trouble by quitting out and asking for help? Absolutely. Absolutely I could have. Was I being stubborn? Oh yes. Oh yes, I was being very stubborn. I wanted to do it, and after a while I figured out the general gist of what I needed to do. It's a little hard too because of the characters you're working with. You're working with rocks, and then you have 2 other characters with you. So at one point, those characters were all very tied up in the other little like minion guys that were coming, so I could focus in on the big boss, but then nobody was fighting the menders, is what he kept referring them to, and they would go and they would heal the giant statue. I was like, okay, I'll focus the menders. Like, the menders are the most important. Like, I have to make sure those menders are taken out. I think that became very obvious very quickly, that like those menders cannot get to that statue. But then this goddamn orb of power would come shooting at you, and I realized quickly, like, it was me. It was only me it was going after. But I could hang out in the room where the menders spawned from, and the orb wouldn't go that far. Couldn't get the orb to blow up on anybody or anything else. I tried a couple of times to see, like, oh, can I just run into a mender and have the orb blow up the mender? Nah, didn't work. But that's alright, we got through it in the end. So yeah, this is the part where I kept running back and forth trying to not die, because I figured out pretty quickly those orbs wrecked my life. They destroyed me. So yeah, it was I have a kitty. I have my kitty cat on my lap. But yeah, and Rox's storyline in general is interesting, and I do really still like Rox and Bram, I think, a little bit more than Casimir and Marjorie. Casimir's part is next, so you're helping her in part 2 get her shenanigans sorted for the summit. So Ritlock, that's the one. Ritlock is his name. But he ends up disappearing. So I'm curious to see how he comes back. Like, that was a pretty interesting storyline to kind of just be like, oh, by the way. So yeah, that's that. Thank you all for watching. I'm sorry my kitty cat interrupted some of this, but you know, it is what it is. Look at how cute she is. She hates that. Alright guys, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching.